I had a very terrorizing experience a couple of times in my childhood that really made me realize that I didn't want to be able to see as much. One of them was in church once, and I was just kind of looking at people sitting there in the church, and I was looking deeper than them, and I was looking at things in them. And at a certain point, one of these things just peered back and looked at me without the person moving their body at all.
I am here today with Julie Clair, and she's had a lifetime of spiritual experiences herself, including some profound experiences with plant medicine, healing trauma. So I am so looking forward to this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me, Julie.
It's a pleasure. Really is a pleasure.
Likewise, maybe we could just start at the beginning. I know that you've been very intuitive since the time you were a young child. Would you like to talk a little bit about what your childhood was like and anything that you're comfortable sharing about that?
I'm pretty much an open book, so there's not much I'm not comfortable sharing. I was a very intuitive child, very connected to energies. And, I grew up in a house like most of us grew up in houses where appearances were still very important, so there was kind of like a stuffing down of how you feel and just look good in the neighborhood. Don't show that there's problems And I had a very terrorizing experience a couple of times in my childhood that really made me realize that I didn't want to be able to see as much. I kind of shut it down. I was like, whoa, no. I know I'm not okay with seeing this. And some of them I discussed on another show recently, but one of them was in church once, and I was just kind of looking at people sitting there in the church, and I was looking deeper than them, and I was looking at things in them. And at a certain point, one of these things just peered back and looked at me without the person moving their body at all. And I was just like, okay, I don't want to, it's not a good idea to do this. I was like 9 years old. It's pretty, and a couple of other experiences before that where family members angry, screaming at you, and you could see what's coming in you. And being very aware, even as a child, I was like, what do I do with this now? It's in me. I'm not going to throw it back on them. So that led to a period of suppression, and then just being, like an angry teenager. Welcome to the club. And trying to suppress it even more because it kept coming in and it kept trying to wake up, my psychic senses. And it wasn't until I met an alchemist, a master alchemist, when I was 25 years old, and I was pretty much on the verge of an absolute collapse. I had partied until I couldn't anymore. I had gone to university and gotten straight A's only, and still I felt devoid of meaning and unsafe. And he arrived in my life, and that was the beginning, a big opening up and kind of coming to terms with everything I had stuffed inside and suppressed. And he was like, you're meant to do work on this planet, and it's not as a university professor, and it's not as an angry partier.
How did it feel when you heard him say that?
So I was already kind of in that place where it's like, I'm going to be a university professor, and I'm going to bring knowledge in the world, and I'm going to help, educate people and make them become more aware of consciousness. I was kind of in that thing, but I was going about it very academically. And when he said that, the level of hostility that came up in me and wanted to rip his throat out was enough for me to know oh, there's definitely something deeper that I need to go do than, hiding in the ivory tower kind of thing. And yeah, it just came right up, and I could almost feel it want to attack him. And he's looking at me, and he's completely aware of all of this, and he's like, yeah, they can attack if it wants. And I was like, oh, I'm not alone seeing this.
Wow. Just a question about your childhood experiences. When you saw this thing that you saw that was inside people that you then saw looking back at you, what is your understanding of that now, what that was?
It's an entity. I see them all the time now too. It's just that now I'm not freaked out as much. As a 9-year-old, you don't know what to do with that. And I didn't think they could see me back then. I thought I was looking at them and they couldn't see me. Yeah. But that was a major trauma. Like my entire body just froze. I just froze.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So when the people were angry at you and you saw something like going into you, were those also entities?
Sometimes just energy, like dark, it's kind of like red fire energy, and you feel like kind of like push on you. But at other times, if the anger was strong enough, or I'm aware it was much later in my life that I did receive a couple of curses as well from some very hurt family members that were suffering in their own torment. And that absolutely looks like beings coming in, bug-like beings. They don't look like angels. They look like, I don't know how deep you want to go in a subject like that, but there's a lot of them have an insect-like form, like mantis, but they're much bigger. Insectoids, reptilians that everyone knows about by now. Like a lot of them have insect-like bodies. It's very freaky to see that. You have nothing to help you gauge what is going on.
Would you say that most people have some type of entity, or what percentage of people?
Oh my God. What percentage of people don't have them? I think I would go more with that than
right.
Unfortunately, like in the same way, like even biology understands this. There's a bunch of stuff living in you that's not you. Bacteria and parasites and like whatever fungus and I don't know what, like all these things. So it's already the case that our field, at the level of a microbacteria, this is an entire galaxy. You know what I mean? Like, and at the level of your aura and the vast being that you are, it is an entire universe in you. So a lot of things can hang out in there. Some of them we called in because we were lonely as children. Some of them we brought in from other lifetimes that we're still working with them. Some of them come in through an accord that you're willing to help them evolve. Other ones just come in through negative emotions, when we have like despair and really guilt, shame, these kinds of emotions. It's a food source for them. It's a food they feed. That's what they feed on. It's not bad. We don't have to judge it. That's just what they feed on. Just like some bugs eat poop, like it's just, and they, as any other life form, they don't want to die. So they will do what they can to keep the environment that they're in enhancing for them. So we kind of end up with kind of implants. We've got things going on with, we can even call them self-generated entities, like these thought loops that we've been feeding on for a long time about how life is like this and it sucks, this and that and then that. And that loop takes on a life of its own. That becomes some sort of entity. It's generated by us as creators, but then that loop is really good food for external entities to come and latch into and kind of feed it and poke at it and then it all kind of works together until you start realizing what's going on in you and you're like, maybe I won't feed that thought anymore. But to answer your question, most people do have entities in them. Some of them come from their family line, their genetic heritage, their epigenetics, their past lives. There's gazillions of them everywhere. Like ever since that rip in the fabric during Atlantis, that's been a rampant problem. And there's a lot of people working on it. But until the breach actually got sealed, a lot of that work was just kind of it's like trying to get rid of an ant when there's 1,000 more coming in, So we'll see what happens now. There's definitely a lot of people working on this.
Well, this is really fascinating, and I'd like to come back to it, but I want to continue with your story. So you met this person who told you that you had more work to do in the world, and how did your story proceed? I know you've had several experiences with plant medicines that we talked about that I'd really love to hear about.
Yeah. So from that moment on with him, I had already explored psychedelics a lot, as a teenager, more in a LSD kind of, recreational formats. But it was enough for me to know that there was an entire world out there that wasn't our experience. Like in many ways, the psychedelics in my adolescence saved me from going way deeper in darkness. But by the time I met Jacques, the master alchemist, I did a 2-year apprenticeship with him, just like nonstop. And it just went so deep. And once I left his orb, it's funny, on Facebook today was like, hey, this is a post from 13 years ago. And it was a post I wrote saying, I can't wait to get out of the dieta. I've been in the dieta for months and months and months, which is what you do when you're doing ayahuasca. So it was pretty much exactly 13 years ago that I went on that journey. I couldn't have told you that until Facebook reminded me this morning how long it was ago. But that period was a 2-year long apprenticeship with a Shipibo shaman, a wonderful man named Franz from the Peruvian jungle. And when I first met him, I already had all these alchemy tools. I already had this deep teaching I'd received, and I was already offering energy healing and workshops. But I was still like super up here. You know, I was in my high mind. I had like clear cognizance, super strong, clear knowing, but I didn't really feel things in my body. And I hadn't processed trauma out of my physical and emotional bodies yet. I'd pretty much processed it out of the upper fields. My mental body had a pretty clear idea, like, hey, this is what happened, and then I did some healing and therapy. But the actual storage spots, let's say, in the body, in the physical body, in the emotional body, had yet to be touched on. And that's what that 2-year apprenticeship was all about. I was brought back into my body, and it was very hard to do. It was almost a trauma in itself, because there was a lot of pain in there from, some sexual abuse as a child and deep moments of terror, different moments of my childhood, all had to come up to the light. And I had to be able to be there and not only hold them, but understand the difference between the trauma and the energies that latched into there to feed on it. And that's one of the things about plant medicine that's very important to understand. What plant medicine does, the most important thing it does, is teach you what you are and what you are not. Because no trauma release, no deep healing can happen until there's a clear distinction between an energy in you that's not you and the actual energy of trauma. And it's very interesting to explore that. I'm sure you want to ask a question about that.
No, I love what you were saying. And I would love to learn more about that, how the plant medicine helps you to differentiate between those two things.
Absolutely. That's my pleasure. I can go really deep. So if ever you're like, okay, let me ask a question, just tell me, okay? Because
okay.
it just flows. And so I'll give an example of one beautiful moment I had with the plant. At first, she had to show me the difference between my body, my emotions, and my mind. Now, that was a very important distinction to make, because it was all kind of jumbled together. My physical body and my emotional body, it's just one thing. I was trying to avoid feeling what was in there, kind of thing, And my mind was just kind of like, my mind had been used to floating up. My mind had been freed from my body a long time ago. Freed. So one ceremony in particular, she gave me the very, very distinct feeling of really feeling my body, the emotions flowing through the physical body, because emotions are chemical, that they're physical. So the emotions floating through, moving in the body, and then my mind, completely separate from the process. My mind was just up there like, oh my God, check it out. I can just be here. And I can just do what I want while she's doing that. Oh my God, this is so cool. And oh my God, it's like a hyper kid, so she was kind of showing me, bring it back here, because that thing's out there and you need to be here. And you need to understand you're not your body, you're not your emotions, you're not your mind, but they all still need to be here so that the spiritual you can fully envelop and inhabit this space. So that was a key moment with her. And then at a certain point, I started being able to feel like an energy latched in. I had like latch points here, and it was going down here, and it had latch points like that. And I could really feel like that's not part of me. That's not me. I can feel where it's latched into me. So clearly it's not me. Like, and that's the key moment with her. It's like, once you've honed in on that and you understand that's not me, and I want us to process this out of my body, then she was like, take another dose. Take another dose. This is all with ayahuasca that mainly. And she then proceeded to start unlatching the energy. And the more she worked on unlatching, the more the energy in there started screaming. And the more it screamed, the more I started getting a little bit freaked out, because it was like, these energies want to live, right? So they're like, I will kill you, you will die if you like just blah, 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 like, and the shaman kept reminding me, don't listen to anything that energy is saying, and the plant's just kind of like, she's very feminine, right? So she's just kind of like getting in there and threading the spots, and the way it works with ayahuasca very specifically is there's a purging process, right? Like, as it gets more and more unhooked and you're more and more cognizant, this is not me, and I am not allowing this to be in me anymore. I no longer give permission for this to be in me anymore. That's what I kept saying. I kept asking for the Holy Spirit to join in. I was just, praying all over the place. And then when it's ready, everything just kind of like, everything aligns and it's just ready and it gets expelled. So we're vomiting. And you know when you vomit something out of you, that's not you. It's a very powerful experience. So that was one of the powerful experiences I had with her. And another one was the first time ever that I did it. And I could hear something in my mind talking, and it was super negative. And I thought that was me my whole life. And in that moment, I had that realization that like, it can't be me if I'm like hearing it talk. And even my mind is reacting to listening to it talk. So it's not my mind and it's not me. And as soon as I became aware of that, it's like almost all of a sudden, it's like it knows it's been seen. The energy knows it's been seen. And they don't look. Kind of like when that thing looked at me in the church. It's like, hey, I don't like that you're looking at me, and once it's seen, then the plant is like, okay, hone in. And that one was in my spine. It was like all through my spine and like it tentacled into the brain. And as it was being extracted more and more, the shaman stood up with a sword of light and kind of like got it out of me like that. I could hear all these thoughts that I'd been entertaining since I was a teenager, like very self-loathing and self-hate thoughts. And it's like I finally understood these weren't even me. But I had been walking around for 20 years thinking it was.
So let me ask you first, I'll go back to the beginning of your first experience. You said you had this realization where you experienced your mind being outside of your body and stuff. What is the process of bringing that back in? Because that is something that I know a lot of us deal with, myself included.
Of course. It's the monkey mind, the hamster wheel, the whatever we want to call it, right? So the reality is that your mind is constantly trying to stay active because it knows there's something deeper than it going on that it doesn't know how to deal with, right? So in a nutshell, we heal the mind by coming back into our body and working with holding whatever's in there that needs to be processed. That's the only true way you're ever going to shut your mind up. Right. You got to go and heal what's in, because the mind's reacting to something. Like in the case of how the plant showed it to me, the more I could feel my body and my emotional currents, the more the mind was like trying to like go somewhere else and be like, I don't have to be there. I don't have to be there. I can just be over here. I can be over there. I can be over there. Like, and it was like, just, there's a decision that needs to be made of like, I'm going there and you're coming with me. But it's not like, I'm not going to force my mind to come into my heart and my body. The mind will not do it. You come back to being in your body and you stop listening. You stop listening. It'll stop talking eventually. Like, old school meditation, it's all about that. Spend 20 years just, sitting there in silence and hearing your mind go insane. and don't react to it. The clouds passing by in the sky or whatever they say, and eventually the mind just kind of like, oh, all right. But that moment doesn't happen overnight. It's almost like it's very hard for us to find the place to do it. But the main way to do it is to go from my mind is blah, 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 blah. And where is that actually going on in my body? What is my mind, blah, blah, reacting to in my body? And then you focus all your attention of your consciousness, not of your mind. You focus your conscious attention into that area of the body, and you refuse to leave. You refuse to let the kind of like bring you back up there. And that starts allowing the mind, slowly but surely, to feel safer and safer and safer, allowing itself to stop talking and to actually observe. Because the mind is very able to do that. Like when we're like super enthralled by something, our mind's there. It's not trying to get away. It's not, picking a fight with someone in your brain, or like it's there. So it's all about it feeling safe. And the only way your mind can feel safe is if you feel safe in your body. That's why we want to heal trauma, right?
Yeah. And that makes so much sense, because so many people, when they experience trauma in their childhood, just completely disconnect. Because as a child, especially, you don't know how to handle that situation. And so you don't want to feel those feelings. They feel so overwhelming. And so you just disassociate. And I know I've almost recently, like in the last couple of years, really become aware of how much I'm doing this, like so dissociated from my body that I would say things like, well, I wish I just didn't have to eat 3 meals a day because it's such a hassle. And I wish I could just, go meditate all day or do this and not wanting to feel my feelings. I had to get therapy to help me with that. And even in my mid-30s, being so afraid and of being overwhelmed by feelings that I didn't want to feel.
Yeah. And it's like that feeling of overwhelm is normal, right? Overwhelm is like a feeling of is not being sure if you can handle something. If we're not sure if we can handle something, of course we're going to feel overwhelmed. It's the mind's like, I don't know how to do this. And it's true. It's true that the mind doesn't know how to do this. Like that's the hallelujah, like even for the mind to realize that it's like, mind, I know you can't do this. I love you. I know you can't do this. I understand this has to be done another way. Me, the conscious being, I have to go there. And the more you start doing that process, because you're right on it. It's dissociation, right? We go through something as a child, and there's a dissociation. And that dissociation, there's the memory of the event, and there's the actual feeling. The memory of the event stays in the mind, and the feeling gets lodged into the body somewhere. Anywhere, in your toe, in your knee, and your, never mind, Chinese medicine, if it's rage, it's in this organ, yeah, sure. But we're way more ingenious than that. We have hidden things in our bodies, and that's the strangest places. This is the beauty of it. My whole mentorship program last year that's finishing up was all about that. It was called Healing the Split, right? It's all about the dissociation. And the way we bring it back together is that as long as there's a memory and there's no emotional reaction to it, it's a dissociation. And when it's brought back together, when we allow ourselves to feel the true emotion that the child felt, so it's pre-verbal. It doesn't have words, it's like deep fear or deep sadness or anger, or it's not super evolved, right? Because our brain wasn't that evolved at that time. And we're working with our limbic brain, just, basic core emotions. To be able to feel that and hold the space and because your physical body is governed by your brainstem and your emotional body is governed by your limbic brain. And these two parts of your brain, they can't tell the difference between each other. They can't tell the difference between the body and the emotions. So to feel an emotion that's super overwhelming, to your body feels like someone's ripping your arm off. So of course it's going to resist. Of course, right? And they don't have a conception of time. That's all cortex, linear, upper brain stuff. So for them, that's all going on right now. That trauma from 30 years ago, it's right now. Right now. It never stopped. But they're not like, it's been going on for 30 years because they don't live in time. So it's we have to be careful with that. Being like, oh my God, no. It's right now, right here. And as you learn to, with presence and deep love and heart, deep connection with the spiritual heart, and you go and hold these things and you allow them to come and be felt in the body, the memory and the energy can re-merge together. And once that happens, when that truly happens, it's gone. It's gone. And it's so hard for people to believe that, but it's true. Like the whole expression forgive and forget, that's what it's trying to point to. You bring it back together and it's gone.
Let me ask you a little bit more about that and the use of the plant medicine. So what is it about the plant medicine that makes that process easier for people?
Okay, so at the simplest level that I would want to explain that, plants are second density. We're in third density, about to shift into fourth. Okay?
Right.
So plants work with your bodies a lot more than they ever touch your mind. That's important to understand. So, like, of course, they're spiritual, because it's not like, oh, second density is not spiritual. It's not like that either. Even rocks, first density, are spiritual, but crystals, we've all played with crystals. So because they're second density, it's very easy for them to go into your body and bring you into a deeper connection with your body. Because you can try running away from feeling your body on plant medicine. I've seen people try to do that and they're just freaking out and puking nonstop, and like they're in complete resistance to the process. And the plant's like, I'm in you. Like, you can't get me out of you just because you want me out of you. I'm in you and you made a decision to be here with me. So let's go. The simplest answer would be that because they are plants, because they are part of the second density world, they have no difficulty connecting with your emotional body. Your emotional body is second density too. Like, so they don't have that mental interference thing. They don't have to deal with that thing that we have as humans where we can get lost up there and lost in stories and conceptual this and conceptual that. They don't have that going on at all. None of that. You ingest them and they're like molecularly, at a molecular level, they're in you and they're heightening and amplifying your ability to feel these deeper levels of you, which are not like less evolved. It's tricky when we talk about that, right? Like, it's like, my body and my emotions and my mind, and we think like I'm going up and it's better and better. And then my heart and then my divine will and my this and my that. But all of it is spiritual. All of it has a purpose. But in a nutshell, that's what I would want to tell you. And if I want to go more spiritual, they have spiritual beings that work with them, right? So there's the plant, there's the essence of the plant, which is a being in itself. And then there's other beings that work with them, just like there's elementals in nature that take care of forests and stuff like that. So in the case of ayahuasca, for example, when a shaman works with ayahuasca, he has what are called arcanas. And no, I'm not talking about tarot. Arcanas. And they are the spirit beings that work with the shaman and with the plant, because the plants are a little bit wild. Like these plants are like, I have come here to be your da, 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 they just do what they do,
Right.
So there's kind of like, it's like a second density and a fourth to fifth density that kind of like
wow,
work on you from both sides. So the plant's like bringing up the stuff that's stuck in the atoms and the cells and the photoluminescent cells of the emotional body, and the higher consciousness at work is helping keep the plant aligned with the intention of what's going on. It's really important to understand that. Like, someone goes towards plant medicine and they're just going, I'm going to do it for fun. Don't do that. Don't do that. These plants are wild. You need the shaman, and you need a good shaman that's been doing it for decades and understands the dieta and follows the rules in order for the arcanas to work with him in a tight unit. Because the plants, like a bunch of stuff opens up. It opens up portals. It opens up a bunch of stuff. And without someone responsible that has a lot of training working with these energies, working with the energies that get released through the substances, you can walk out of there with more trauma.
I have never heard it explained like that before. And I love what you said because it made so much sense with the plants being second density and then also working with higher density beings. I don't know if you're familiar with Law of One, but it's a channel text that talks about the densities. And so the second density would be, like you said, in third density is when we develop self-awareness and when the ego mind comes online. And so the second density is just more a place of pure beingness. And so it makes so much sense of what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it goes on and on, right? Fourth density is kind of like tapping into these light beings that are all working for love and compassion and, you know, want to help like eradicate all the negative. But fifth density is even more important because fifth density is wisdom. The wisdom to know the difference between, well, is it good that I take that out of that person? Or is it better that I teach them to see that it's there so that they take it out themselves?
Right.
It's kind of like the, you know, bring the horse to the water or whatever, the fishing metaphor of you can give people a fish, but it's better if you teach them how to fish. Like, so I didn't even know that that's what was going to come out as an explanation, but it makes perfect sense. You know, like I like that image of honing in between the second and the fourth, you know, and ideally a bit of fifth density also helping out with the process so that the work can be complete. It's important to understand too that, you know, like I spent 2 years working with ayahuasca. By the end, she was very clear with me. She's like, you only continue with me if you accept to devote your life to this. And I was like, no. And it wasn't like, oh, well, fine. No, it's not like that. But I got to the point where she's like, I have given you, you know, you have what you need. Your body is healed. You know, like you know how to work on the trauma. You know what's left to work on, and you don't need me to do it. That's an important thing. Do not use plants to make them do the work for you. They show you, they will help you and assist you. They will not do it for you. And thank God. Because it's like, then what? Then we're still little children with crutches, and we're still looking for things to help us do things. We're not children. We're light beings, and we're waking up. And it's like, so there's an exchange involved with these plants. You know, like, sure, you pay to go to a ceremony. There's an exchange that happens there. You pay the shaman gives you time and fine. But there's an exchange with the plant as well that has nothing to do with the monetary exchange for the ceremony itself. And like in a nutshell, how to talk about this without it sounding weird, the plant accepts to offer you a teaching and to help you, and you accept to let it keep a part of you, you know, ideally not forever, you know, like until you have fully like, okay, I understand the lesson. Thank you. I give the energy back to you that you gave to me for me to understand something, and I take my energy back. Okay. So what I've seen spending a lot of time in Mexico, like, which is kind of like that area of Mexico is like how to say, it's like Bali in Mexico, right? So it's like everyone's just like, it's like McDonald's ceremonies. It's ceremonies every day of every kind. A lot of people working with plant medicines that don't have the proper training. And what happens is someone goes to a ceremony and then they're like, yeah, like I don't feel good. I don't feel like it's integrated, you know, so I need to go do another ceremony. I was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. That's disrespecting the plant. That's disrespecting the teaching you're being given. And I've had a lot of clients that I've worked with throughout the years that a lot of our work was about finally integrating what they had received from the plants so that they could give back and retrieve, you know, basically the fragments of their soul that were still with the plants. So I would want people to understand that so well. It's like, there's work to do before you ever show up at a ceremony. Like, there's work to do. You need to be already on the path. And the plant helps you kind of like get to the next level that you weren't able to get to only with your 3D mind and your spirit guides and whatever. Like, they can give you that little jump where it's like, it's hard to go fully back in the body. It's hard for all of us because the trauma that we carry in our body isn't only our trauma. We carry all the trauma of all the thousands of years of crap that's gone on here. So we have like a responsibility. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the world I live in, and that's the world I devote myself to. I have a responsibility to heal the trauma in me because that is also what heals it in the collective fabric of humanity. And that is super important.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I've come to a greater understanding of that recently, that when one person heals the trauma within themselves, it's almost like a blueprint that the rest of humanity now has access to. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I like the idea of blueprint. Like, we understand it as parents. Like, when you have a kid, you start understanding, if I heal that in me, my kid gets it for free. Doesn't mean he's going to take it, but you know what I mean? Like, so, but it's the same thing at the bigger level. So the only thing my little academic mind wants to like twinker a little bit what you said.
Go for it.
And I would say is that when we heal trauma and we restore the natural blueprint of our being, with all its layers and levels, and we're able to embody a healthy energetic structure by osmosis that affects others. Because, like, I don't know if you've ever been around someone that's super healed and high frequency. It affects you just being around them, right? Your cellular intelligence picks up, hey, that's normal. That's normal. That feels good. That feels flowy. And what's going on here doesn't feel like that. For the mind, it can often be like, oh, this person's better than me. They had whatever the mind's going to do, it's going to do its thing, right? But energetically speaking, you can feel a healthy blueprint. So the more of us do this and the more of us restore, like if you want to talk about, our angelic human blueprint, it's like this divine blueprint that is our natural blueprint. And it's been affected by different things, by different seedings of humans and whatever, and like other energies be getting mixed up with our DNA. And there's been a whole bunch of crazy stuff that's happened in the last couple of 100,000 years and beyond that. But restoring that blueprint, divine blueprint of our healthy bodies and the healthy connections between them, is a big part of what the plants can help with. But there's a lot of other tools too. Like, I'm a firm believer that the reason I said no to continuing with the plant and becoming an ayahuasquero is because I don't want to have molecular dependency. I don't want to depend on a second density form in order to be able to work with fourth and fifth density. For me, our challenge is to be able to do this sober and willingly, right? So the plants really help, but it's not okay to use them instead of us becoming the sovereign being. And that's my biggest issue I find with not with plant medicines, but with people that go do them and like, I'm going to go do it and then I'm going to be healed. And then they try to go back to the normal world and like, I don't even know how to function in this world anymore. And then they think they need more. And it's like, no, now you need to integrate. Now you need to embody it. You, the conscious being, you need to go all the way back into the layers, inhabit the physical body. Yeah. Which means accepting to eat. I still relate to what you said. Oh my God. When I was in university, I was like, oh my God, my body wants to eat again. It's so annoying,
Yes.
So back in the physical body, understanding its slow rhythms and needs, back into the emotional body, understanding how it needs to be able to flow and process and, let things come up when they're there and cry them out if needed, or punch a pillow if you're angry, be in the emotion, the mental body. And then from there, from the heart upwards, It's very unity based. It's the lower densities that are more, dualistic. They need us to come back in there.
So when you said that you intentionally didn't continue with the plant medicine and that you didn't want to be dependent on a second density being to connect with higher densities, what did that process look like for you? And what tools or what process do you use now to work with higher densities?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. In a nutshell, I would say by being aligned in my body, having a body-mind connection that's aligned, right? So not my body and then my mind. That alignment allows you to embody a lot more energy. You don't need another second density being. You have second density within you. You have first density called bones. You've got second density called, like blood and vitamins and all that. It's all in you. You don't need to go and depend on other beings. So through being very grounded in the body, having a healthy, your healthy body templates aligned, doing that kind of work on a regular basis, having the heart space become more and more open, because your heart space is the bridge between the lower and the higher densities. This is where all the relational stuff happens. And then from here, the opening up to the higher densities. Like if we're talking about dimensions, which are different, the 7 chakras are 7 dimensions, right? Like it's all already going on in there. We're not here to be just the heart, or we're not here to be just our third eye, like we're spiritual beings inhabiting this whole structure. And the idea is to inhabit it, fully be in it. And in order to fully be in it, you have to accept to go everywhere where there's trauma, because where there's trauma, there's like a little blocked energy. And where there's a blocked energy, there's often a bunch of other things playing around with that, and feeding on it. And structures that kind of hold these things into place. So for me, it's a process of deep introspection and deep meditation, and really making sure that you're bringing the body in the process. It is not meditation for medication. It's not like I'm going to meditate to not have to feel anything. No. This is like fully embodied meditation, all the way from the tip of your nose to the tip of your toes, making sure that you're fully in your body. The central line is, properly activated. All the chakras are open and able to flow. And that's a process, right? Like I'm 22 years into the process of having the energy flow properly in my body, and the different levels, the core star level, the hairline, the auric field, physical body, all of that needs to function as one unit. And then it's a lot harder for things to come talk to you that present themselves as certain things without you being like, no, I don't think so.
So the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about the entities that you saw as a child. And I said I wanted to come back with that. And I wanted to hear your full story first, because I thought my questions might be answered. And I was going to ask you how someone could find out what entities they may have that need to be removed and how they could go about removing those.
Yeah. So the way I work, like personally, the way I work, some people say, go see a shaman or go see some exorcist dude or go see this or go see that. The problem with that is you have a place in your energy field that an entity is able to live in because you are not fully there. The only reason they can be in there is because you're not, So I'm not really down for the whole extracting things, because then it's just there's a hole there. And hey, guess what? Something else goes in there. And it can even be something worse. Like people don't think about that. It makes a lot more sense for someone to learn to reconnect to themselves and start learning to come back into their body. We need to reclaim all that space in us, all that space, because where you fully are, nothing else can be there. In a nutshell, my principle, I guess you'd call it, my way of going about this is we bring you fully back in the body. which often means like we can feel where they are. You can feel, it doesn't take long to start feeling like discomfort in your body and where it's latching in, especially if someone's honing in and looking at it, the energy will start reacting. And then the goal isn't like, get that out of there. The goal is, let's go deeper. What's underneath it? What is it able to connect to? What is it plugged into? Right? So let's say, oh, there's an implant there. All right, fine. What's deeper than the implant? Because the deeper we go, the more you find the traumas. You find, the hurt child. You find old energies from other lives. You find things, and that's what you work on. That's what you hone in on. It's kind of like, it's not a really good example. Like, when you have like one of those, the wood things, I don't know, spleen? Is that what it's called? When you have like a little thing stuck in your skin and it hurts.
A splinter?
Splinter, thank you. Spleen, no, that's an organ. Sorry, French over here. It's, our tendency is like, we want to go pick it out, right, with a needle. I want to go get it out kind of thing. And it's like, if you give your body a chance, it knows how to push it out. You can give it a bit of essential oil and you can help it out a little bit. But, if you allow it from the inside out, right, your body knows what's not it. And it doesn't want to keep it, it doesn't want to keep it in there. So it's kind of the same idea. The more you go and re-inhabit the place where there's the wound, and the more you stay there and really come back to being there, because we don't want to go in our wounds, right? They're like, it feels horrible being there. I feel like a little 3-year-old, blah, 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 or, oh, I got to touch shame, or I got to touch horrible emotions that I don't want to look at. Like, I have to go see the part of me that's a monster, or however it shows up. We just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until we can, like, from deep in there, push the presence, push it forward. No, entities don't like the taste of high frequency energy. They don't like it. It's kind of like they can go where there's a hole. They can go where there's a tear. They can go where there's an invitation. So we come back to our body. I have found that to be the most effective, because or else it's just another crutch, right? Oh, I talked to this guy and this thing came in me and now I got to go see a shaman, an exorcist to get it out of me. Yeah. Sometimes I'll work with light beings because they can do it like super fast, right? Like they're, especially the super high authority ones, but they can't do it unless you're in there. They will not do it if you're not willing to go in your body. Because these high density beings, like especially fifth density beings, they won't take it out of you just because it's like, oh, poor her. She's stuck with that thing in her. It's like, okay, you're aware your thought process just got shitty. You started thinking about blah, 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 blah. And now you don't feel good. And then, and then the person's like, oh, I have an entity in me. And it's like, well, 1 second. Is there? Even if there is, that thing can only feed on the fact that you're already looping and feeding something in you, right? So it's always going deeper than the surface level. The surface level is the entity, right? And then deeper than that, there's potentially an implant. Deeper than that, there's potentially a portal. Deeper than that, there's some kind of wound. And deeper than that, there's the presence that you are. So yeah, I'm not too prone to go see someone that'll take it out of you. Mm. I'm more about like, first of all, do we even know which part of that is you and which part of that isn't you? Because a lot of people think there's a monster in me. And meanwhile, that's a pissed off 3-year-old that's been stuck in a dungeon for 30 years. It looks like a monster. But if you go hang out with it long enough, it starts melting. And next thing you know, there's a little 3-year-old you crying and wondering why you abandoned it, and and like all this stuff starts unfolding. So that's why I was saying with ayahuasca, that's the beauty of medicinal plants. If used properly, that is their main teaching, to teach you what you are and what you're not. They're very good at, like, once you understand what you're not, they're good at helping you get it out of the way. And then the next part of the work is you actually healing, right? You actually healing the trauma. And they can help with that. They can help bring the memories back up to your consciousness. That's one of the most important things. It might be the most important thing, but it's one of the most important things that I received from the plant was the ability to finally recollect some of the deeper traumas, because they were so deep I couldn't access them, especially sexual abuse stuff from when I was a child. So, but that only happened once I was ready. That only happened once I'd done a lot of work and I was ready to face and embrace what I was going to see. And then the plant was working with me. Yeah.
Julie, as a final question, you've talked about how the best way to get rid of entities, heal our trauma, whatever it may be, is to be fully connect with our true self and fully come into our body. Could you share with people how they can identify their true self? Because a lot of people probably identify with their mind or their thoughts or their emotions.
There's no simple answer to that, but the simplest answer I could give to that is your true self lives deep within your heart space. It is very still. It is very present. It is inclusive of everything. It is completely detached. It is benevolent. It has no reaction to anything, which is very hard for us to understand. For the ego, that's like, what, you're talking about like some kind of corpse zombie or something? You know? But it's like, no. That's just because the ego doesn't understand. It doesn't feed on intense low frequency emotions. It's like, bliss and peaceful states. And the best way to start understanding what that is to experience it directly. And hopefully that's what people receive from good meditation teachers. Like that's certainly everything I teach them in my own mentorship program is to come back to the heart, And I don't know if you're willing, we can do a little 10-minute.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to.
All right. Good. So I'll just do a little bit of a very basic, super basic 3-step system that we can all do whenever we need to. It's very simple. We close our eyes. We allow our breathing to regulate. And we notice. This is how we learn to do this. We start noticing. There is a big, big difference between the field of awareness that you are and the actual content within it. So as we're breathing, you just allow yourself to hone into your body. How when you inhale, the lungs fill up. The rib cage expands. Energy comes up towards the throat. And when you exhale, it just releases. You can feel it releasing. It's almost like a flow of energy that releases all the way down into the feet. Like the heart's the bridge here. So it's almost like when you inhale, you feel the expansion in your physical body. And when you exhale, you feel the relaxation. Your body just lets go. Feel all the skin of your body at once. Feel how it's like this beautiful boundary in which there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of movement in your body. It's so alive in there. There's fluids running around everywhere through your lymphatic system, through your blood. There's electricity going through your nervous system. There's like denser structural bones. You are not your mind. Your ability to hold attention onto something is not your mind. your ability to feed a loving intention is not your mind either. There's no need to visualize or say anything or see words. You are the deeper being that holds intention. And your intention right now is to give loving attention to your body and to feel your skin and to feel all the life moving around in your body. And it's okay. Sometimes it gets intense when we're doing that. It's like, whoa, but it's okay. It's like the what is kind of the mind not knowing what to do with this, because the mind is so used to all your consciousness being involved with it. So let's feel the body. Let's feel the container, bringing your attention up into the headspace, but we're not going in there to hear the content. We're going in there to feel the container. We're going in there to feel the brain. There's all these layers and systems going on in your brain. There's a bunch of glands in the middle. There's different parts. Be there as a conscious observer and try to even feel and hear how it's all moving. There's a bunch of synapses going on in here. Synapses, I'm not sure how to say it. Moving. It's a powerful, powerful mechanism, our brain. Feed the container. Just a loving intention. It's so simple. And back to feeling the entire body at once. Everything at once. The head, the neck, the shoulders, the torso, the arms, hips, legs, feet, tips of your toes, tips of your fingertips. And feeling that central line, the central line that goes through you from your crown to your root. Feeling your crown, your heart, and your root chakra at the same time. We're just going a little bit deeper than the physical, going into the energetic. The emotions are physical reactions that happen in your body, but their source is energetic. Their source is either the mind and its thoughts, or beyond the mind. Imagine that you can simply feel, the flow of emotional energy within you. The emotional body is an energy body that's a little bit outside of your main physical body. For those that are visual, it's very cloud-like. It's like pastelish clouds. And try to just feel, just like we were feeling all the space inside your skin. Now just try to feel the space outside your skin. Letting emotions know you are allowed to flow. You are allowed to let me know where you are. and what you need. For me, I ask that question and I can feel something around the heart space, a little bit above it. For someone else, it might be somewhere else. And that's the beauty of asking and not letting the mind answer. The mind asks the question. The body answers. The spirit answers. Wherever you feel energy, bring more and more of your conscious attention there. Let the mind be an observer of this, because the mind's not sure what to do with this. But we're like, hey, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. And just observe for a couple of minutes. Asking your body once again, any emotion in me that needs my attention right now, any energy in me that needs my attention right now, please, body, help me feel where it is. And just slowly, gently glide into that space. And just breathe with it. There's no agenda. We're not trying to, this is not mental. We're not trying to do something. There's no strategy. There's no outcome. There's just us accepting to be here now with the energy. Allow it to amplify. I'm just kind of amplifying it because it's fun to do this. Once you start doing this and you see the benefits of it, it's such a pleasure. Just maintaining your attention there. And this is how you know you're not doing it with your mind. Your consciousness is more than able to be at many places at once. You are able to feel your physical body. You are able to feel the energy moving around. And you are able to come back to that central line. Feel how open crown chakra is, letting the divine energy in. Feel how open the root chakra is, allowing the earth energy to come and ground you. And coming into your heart. It is the vastest space. Imagining you can just dive right into it. Deeper and deeper. Touching that stillness. Floating in that sea of presence. And letting that expand. As you are within your heart space. Like you can inhale. You inhale the divine energy through your crown. You inhale the earth energy through your root. You bring them into the heart space. They concentrate and blend. And exhale, you bring it, you expand that heart frequency out. Inhaling, bringing celestial and terrestrial energies together into your heart. And exhale like the rays of the sun, 360 degrees throughout the body, through the physical body, through the skin, through the aura, You expand it more and more. But you remain within the deep heart. All you're doing is expanding from there. Allowing all these systems in you to receive this nectar, this nurturing energy. It is loving. It is inclusive. It allows everything to be as it is. It has no agenda. My definition of love is as you wish and at your pace. As you wish, at your pace. Just a couple more breaths like that. Inhaling through the crown, through the root, into the heart. Filling it up, and exhale, flowing it out, flowing it out, flowing it out. Discovering what it's like to live from within your heart. And notice how calm the mind gets. This is pure medicine for your mind as well. The best medicine for your mind is silence. It's us coming back to the heart and feeding the mind with the heart. Yeah. So this would basically be the beginning of, an hour-long meditative process of inner journeying. But it can also be just this. It can just be 10 minutes. Just be you coming back to your body, feeling your body, then feeling the vaster energy body. Feeling that central line, connecting to the heart of God, the heart of Gaia, and your heart, the triple heart connection. And breathing from here through the intention, through the field of awareness that you are, that is so much vaster than your mind. And being able to hold awareness of all that at once and just be with it and breathe with it. Inhaling deeper and deeper into your heart. Exhaling, rays of the sun, expanding that heart frequency out into you, out into the world. The more we come back to our hearts, the more our mind can heal. The more we come back to our hearts, the more our body can feel safe. The more we come back to our hearts, the more our entire system knows it's time to shift.
Julie, thank you so much for walking us through that. I think that's the perfect answer to the last question that I asked you, and helping people to really deeply connect with their true self.
That's the truest self in us. Mm-hmm. If you notice how it's full, and yet there isn't a bunch of content going on.
Right.
And when your heart speaks to you, it's very simple. A couple of words. Do this. Go there. Come back.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Would you like to share with the viewers where they can find you?
Of course. I'm not very involved in social media, so don't bother trying to find me there. joyfulsoulexpansion.com is my website. And this is what I do. This is my passion. I guide people back into the heart of their soul. And the goal is always to be able to embody more and more of their natural state of love and joy and flow. And yep, I offer year-long mentorship programs as well as one-on-one work. And yeah, I love what I do. If anybody would want to have a taste of it, I'm happy to offer a 1-hour sacred heart flow session for a discounted price. And just, yeah, the more of us are doing this, the more of us that do this work, the more it stabilizes the field and allows all this chaotic stuff going on it needs to happen. It needs to come up. It needs to come up. This is how we heal the traumas. We need to see them. So holding our grounds by being in our hearts is the most valuable thing you can offer.
Yes. So I'll have Julie's links in the description if anyone would like to check those out, her website. Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for watching the Love Covered Life podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video with your friends, and comment with your thoughts and opinions. And check the description box for the links to my TikTok and Instagram, where I share the more personal side of my life, my website, where I share my paintings and merch, and also the Be a Guest link for anybody who's interested in sharing their story. Be loved, be happy, be at peace, and thank you for watching.